Alright, so I wanted to touch base on the new mission to the moon from India and the actual reality that it is just a two-stage communication satellite. I made a previous video about this, but it was just kind of a short-winded. I think I just typed something up and I don't even really know if I posted it. So this is me officially stating that this is eventually going to be shown as propaganda from India.
In Spacewatch, India was hoping to become the fourth nation to make a soft landing on the moon behind the US, China, and the former Soviet Union. It would have been the...
I just want to point out right there that that was a beautiful order to everything, considering Russia did it first. I also want to point this out. Just take the fucking moon out of this picture right here. Just take the moon out of the picture. What do you get? And look what you got. You got a second stage communication satellite for exosphere communication systems. So this one would be the meso satellite that we were originally talking about, and this would be the thermo or upper exo satellite that they would be hoping to be swinging out further and be within the heavier ionic state and within the F and E bands of the ionosphere, and so
unexplored South Polar region that the Indian Space Research Organization says it lost communication with the unmanned lander. The current status is unknown. Joining me now.
Okay, did you see the dust? What the fuck? We just watched the Starhopper land, and that's not the microgravity the Earth or the moon has. So when that hits down, it doesn't just do that. It's gonna do that for a very long time.
Oh, CBS News space consultant Bill Harwood.
Space consultant.
Hi, Bill.
Space consultant.
Gee, the lander seemed to be operating normally until just before touchdown. Do we have any idea yet what went wrong?
It's hard to launch in the
exosphere. Could be reestablished?
Well, you never say never in the space business, but they tracked it all the way down to just above the surface, about 1.2 kilometers, I think it was.
Which means that there's a good possibility in a wild swing they may get data back from it before it ends up flying out of orbital patterns.
That's what it
Lose
seems like.
for good.
They put the reporters out of the room at the Indian Mission Control Center and said no more updates. So it doesn't look good at all.
Took the reporters out of the room.
Really a crushing disappointment to the Indian Space Agency.
Shut it all down.
We really got a lot riding on this. We're very confident that it was going to work. And to lose contact like that at the last second, that's a very sad thing to do.
Sure, and Bill, this was the second apparent moon landing failure in a row. A privately funded Israeli lander crashed in April. So right now, only the U.S., Russia, and China have successfully...
They got blips from it occasionally, and same thing happened. And bottom line, it is really hard.
Is landing on the moon really that difficult?
You know, you wouldn't think so. You would think with
60 years after Sputnik.
That this would be something that people could do routinely, but it's not. A very senior space manager emailed me right after this happened, and he said, space is hard. And it is. You know, landing a spacecraft on the moon, you've got a communications delay because it's so far away, you can't control it in real time. It takes too long for signals to get there and to get back.
So, obviously, with different methods of communication, you know, radio and digital move at a much different rate of speed. So, this is him not stating exactly where or why they have failed. So, obviously, it's just nonsense. And then, take a look again. There's only 3 people, and we made up the moon landing. They stated that they shot something at it. They stated that they shot something at it and couldn't find our stuff, but they went there too. However, we failed at a space station. They failed at a space station. However, they came together and created 5G and the new communication systems that now the people that are working with them, Iran and its failed launch, unfortunately, and yes, there's been a lot of spectacles about, you know, oh, those were nukes or those were, you know, warheads and things coming to get their enemies. It was obviously the same communication systems that they were trying to launch. And so all of the people that are working with these 2 systems are trying these new systems. So we're, as you saw in my original videos a little while back, I posted NASA's best attempt, and they're just learning how to break down what it is and maybe use it in a system. just like SpaceX and the rest of the emergency systems for rockets and all this type of stuff. We're way far behind them. So take note that while he's explaining that oh, it just takes a long time, it's not the amount of time that it takes. It's that the environment itself doesn't always provide the signal back, which once again just shows that everything's on the Atacama Desert, and that radiant environment is what we're comparing to Mars, and that's exactly how we're studying the potential of being on Mars. And that's why we don't send the kids, down there to study what Mars would be like in that little habitat. We sent them to Hawaii instead for that beautiful little study NASA and ESA did together. This is just propaganda. They're not on the moon. They never went to the moon. They're just trying to get in space like the two big guys right here.
Has to be done by an onboard computer. That is not trivial. It's coming down, it's firing engines, it's maintaining its orientation very precisely, and it's trying to, hit a specified target at a specified speed at a specified time. And it is difficult. It is rocket science in the end. And I think, setbacks like this go to show you that, even this far down the road in the space program, this is not easy stuff, and you have to spend a lot of money and do a lot of testing to get it right. And clearly, they'll figure out what went wrong in this landing. They'll correct it, and I'm sure they'll try again down the road. But it's going to take time, and it's a major setback in the meantime.
And so, Bill, what kind of impact would this second mission have had on both the country of India and space exploration as a whole?
Well, in India, this was a really big deal. They've been very successful in their space program. They've been launching satellites commercially. They put an earlier spacecraft in orbit around the moon and even dropped a probe to the surface that, kicked up some lunar soil so they could study that. They've got a very aggressive
First attempt at second stage communication satellites.
Technology, and in that sense, it's something they took great pride in. They were hoping that this mission would sort of serve as an Apollo moment for them. Something that would inspire the youth to go into science and engineering as careers.
Propaganda.
And of course, that's not going to stop because of this setback, but it's clearly a setback. And it's something that I think they really
Nationalism.
hoping to avoid. They were very confident going into this that they had it
Pride.
down, they had figured it out, it was going to work. But again, these things happen. And like I said, I'm sure they'll recover from it, but it's a major disappointment, both technically, but also I won't say politically. I don't think that Prime Minister Modi's career is riding on this, but he was a strong supporter of this project and the space.
It's all political.
And so I think this is something.
It's pretty clear at this point.
Yeah, it certainly seems the whole country was watching this mission very carefully. Now, I want to ask you about the significance of the South Pole of the moon. Were they making it harder on themselves by aiming there? And why the South Pole of the moon? What is so interesting or important about that?
Well, it's a bit more of a challenge to get into an orbit that'll give you access to the South Pole, but they did that. That all worked out just fine. The reason everybody's interested in the South Pole is there are craters down there that are permanently shadowed. They never see sunlight. Down inside that crater, they've got evidence from orbiters that there is a huge amount of ice in these polar regions in these permanently shadowed craters. So,
All right, I just want to stop there and point out one thing. Okay, first off, we don't have multiple. So there's not multiple tools looking at it. He's referring to the LRO. Now here's the deal. I can't prove this. However, what I can show is the similarities. The Hubble has been decaying in orbit away from us, not back towards the Earth, but away from us, at a rate in which the Spitzer and the Kepler and the Voyager and everything else seems to be within our magnetosphere. At a point within our magnetosphere, they're in time hitting and showing in failure. Take the Voyager, and the first couple of times we flipped it around, we took pictures, Sagan in the early 90s, things like this, till the most recent ones with Kepler, we flipped it around. Now they have changed the mileage as to what they say. It's this far away, but it's always looking back at the Earth. And I'd like to point out that whether or not they call light bands Saturn's rings, or whether they say that there's the moon as opposed to it being Venus, or if it's the things in the pictures that they describe as being anomalies or background pieces. First off, it wasn't Photoshop back then, but there was photo editing because we disputed aliens and Bigfoot and all that bullshit for far too long before all of this nonsense started. So there was something in the woods, and there was always aliens, and this is the most recent, oh, and now there's moon buggies with Jesus and the zombies. And so all of this is him trying to explain that the infrared telescope that's looking at it is nothing more than the LRO. However, I believe that the LRO is the Hubble, because the rate of decay that the Voyager's missions and the Kepler and the Spitzer and now the Hubble are all falling upwards would give them a rate of swing that would give them a better angle to be able to see things like now the Hubble seeing infrared lights and having the zooming capabilities that it does at this point of its orbital decay would now have the ability to see the South Pole's craters. So we would be able to see a greater portion of parts of the moon we've never seen before because of its orbital decay. Now remember, a few months and then a year back, we lost communications with it several times. Now this is perfectly on par with all the rest of them that have hit certain points of the upper thermosphere as they start to decay into this point and eventually into the exosphere, as they're not like the new 5G systems and gamma X-ray telescopic communications and visualization systems. They don't survive out there. So they fritz hard, and anytime there's a storm, we lose them for a while. Sometimes they come back, we get them to work, we get some amazing new things. Last week, the Hubble showed us the eye of Jupiter and all of the amazing things that it's been going through. However, they used to say that it can't look at the inner planets, let alone the moon, because it's too close. Now they're saying they can use it to look at the moon for future landing sites and various things like that. And this is them lightening up to start explaining that maybe the LRO and all of these things are just repurposed missions like it was the Hubble. And we're also using it for a couple of different things, such as the new Themis mission is slowly being repurposed into the Artemis mission. It's the same thing, though. It's what was discovering parts of, it was a heliospheric satellite and was discovering parts of the outer magnetosheath, or plasma sheath most likely. They're saying magnetosheath, trying to touch parts of the plasmic state just outside of our atmosphere. Well, now they're going to change the trajectory of it and do a wild swing and shoot it off towards the moon. And then, and then they're going to get all the studies back from it, which really it's going to stop trying to hit the outer bands at like 6,200 miles out, and it's going to shoot into the plasmasphere just above that, trying to get a raw sample. That's what they're going to hope for, it and the Parker. If they can get to it first, maybe they can discover it and understand it better than, obviously, we're late to the party, but better than their competitors. However, what he's about to preach on is the fact that if we discover water there, which is what the Hubble or the LRO, whatever, is taking these wild swings to check these out, if that discovers water there, we could use it as a fuel to get further away from the moon, which means we don't have to take so much with us, which means we can repurpose it up there. However, if you paid any attention to how much water they're talking about in the soil, when all the science groups have to come out and be like, whoa, 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 okay, what they mean by water is there's two types of soil layers, and then they go off on the types of soil layers and explain that, basically nothing in the top one, and within the bottom one, you would have to excavate like half of the crater to get like a half a cup of water, and then to separate that, you're not getting very much fuel, so you're not going very many places, and it's a pointless endeavor. We're not coring the moon for hydrogen and oxygen. However, that's what the news and everybody's going to start plugging right now. Meanwhile, science has made it clear why that's just not a probability.
If you can perhaps get access to that someday, you could use solar power to generate electricity. You do that high school experiment where you run the electricity through it, you change it back into hydrogen and oxygen, you've got air to breathe, water to drink, and rocket fuel. The space shuttle used oxygen and hydrogen in its main engine. So it provides at least the hope of someday living off the land on the moon, being able to fuel your missions there and go deeper into space. So
that is ridiculous. It's as stupid as hearing Neil Tyson and all them talk about how we're going to use 3D printers that we're going to send over to Mars, and they're going to start building little Lego block caves, and we're going to make giant dirt mounds, and we're going to live underground in Mars, and that's how we'll survive the harsh radiant environment. And they're still ignoring the simplicity that all of them need a magnetosphere there and in transit, and for all the reasons why we're not out there right now. And 230 miles up is far, far away from the 25,000 miles that the end of our bow shock is, so we're just doing this until then.
There's a lot riding on that. This is what NASA's focused on with their Artemis program. They hope to land astronauts at the South Pole of the Moon in 2024 and to establish a sustainable presence there by 2028, and being able to perhaps mine ice at the South Pole is a...
So, first off, yeah, of course they're going to land people there. Okay, so I have a telescope that can see very close, not as close as I would like, but I do know that as I've traveled to observatories and I've been a part of studies that have looked greater than I have the ability to, I know how close I have looked, and that means that I know that various larger telescopes around the Earth can see better than I can. And so obviously they would have pictures a little bit greater than mine. Mine have shown damn near the level in which most of these, 3,000 kilometers, 6,000 kilometers off the surface of the moon probes have been giving us images of. I could put the same picture up. You can do the trigonometry. It'll come out the same. It's exactly the same distance where I stop at in my visuals. I'm about, I don't know, the mid-thermosphere to upper exosphere is where I hang out with my telescopic capabilities. Well, if the moon was the size of the Earth and I was as far away from it, that's about how far I look away from the moon. So I know that their observatories can see all of these fine details that we are not allowed to. However, you have to be a part of the government, just like if you were to be in space, to look at space in detail, and to know these things, you have to be a part of it either in the schools or in the actual service. So this is just more propaganda, and obviously the Artemis mission is just blowing smoke up your ass like Space Force and all the rest of it, because it's just dominance for that little bit of space that we can be in up there, because it all has to do with the control over the technology that we're all involved in here down on Earth.
Major objective.
Fascinating stuff, Bill Harwood. We thank you. Too bad the Indians didn't make it this time, but maybe the next time is a charm. Thank you so much for that.
Sure thing.
Snipey ass motherfucking Americans. Seriously, what the fuck is that? Like, you're not there either. You can't even get to space any better than they can. We all pay the same fucking price to Russia to be there. Or we're all buying the same rockets that Russia created to throw shit up there. So fucking snipey motherfuckers. This is where we're at. This is more 5G bullshit. There isn't a second stage communications satellite apparently. I was hopeful, but I bet they try again. It's not going to the moon though. That's what's up.